Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Godox Creating Cinema broadcast here live from the Profusion Godox booth. My name is Jameson Brooks. I am a filmmaker who has been working with Godox products for a couple years now, and I've been crazy impressed with the quality, the craftsmanship, and just the usability of using them every day on locations, on shoots all throughout the world. So, yeah, I basically got started with Luke and David Edmondson. They were some photographers who were using Godox products a couple years ago, and I was just very curious in seeing what they were using, and to see what they were achieving was incredible. And so I was like, I got to get my hands on some of those lights, and so that's basically what I did. Is I was able to talk to Aries Tao, another Godox ambassador, and he was able to hook me up, and I've been hooked ever since. So I use Godox products on pretty much everything from feature films, documentaries, music videos, commercials, you name it. And that's basically how I got started with Godox. So let me talk to you a little bit about how you can use some of those Godox lights to really make your videos cinematic. So bear with me here. I'm not usually a live broadcaster, so I'm usually behind the camera person and not in a live setting. So this is pretty new for me. So bear with me if you can. So a little bit about myself. Um, like I said, I do feature films. I did a feature film called Bomb City. It was a few years ago that it came out. It's on Amazon Prime, Peacock, uh, Google. It's all over the place right now. So if you just Google it, you can see it, you can watch it. But here lately, I've been getting more into the commercial world. And so I've been using more Godox lights for commercial projects. And I'm talking about projects that range from, low to medium budget to even a high end, national campaign. So, yeah. Hey guys. So, yeah, basically, just to give you a little bit of insight too, I've done projects for Amazon Prime, AT&T, Mercedes, Bud Light, Salvation Army, a lot of really big clients, and I'm using Godox lights on all of those shoots, which is really cool. So I've been on all kinds of sets. I've been, from 200 person crews to one man band. I've kind of done it all. I'm more of a jack of trades when it comes to filmmaking, and I think that's important to for anyone who's aspiring to be a film director, to really just be a jack of all trades, learn all the different positions you can. I got my foundation with DPing and with editing. And I think editing is essential for anyone who wants to direct, just because it really helps you to be able to tell the story of what you're trying to craft. So by understanding, as filmmakers, we're basically capturing all these different puzzle pieces and putting them all together in one timeline. And you have to make it make sense for the viewer. And so I think being able to effectively edit definitely will help your overall result and will help your filmmaking career as a whole. So the first things first, about creating a cinematic environment for your shoot. It's all about location. So definitely do your research before you go into a shoot. So scout a couple locations if you can. And obviously this is dictated by, your budget. If you're not working with any budget, like early in my career, I remember what I used to do is I would Google remote locations all around me, and I would find like abandoned buildings and stuff that I could go get easy access to, and basically not have to have any permission or anything. And I'm not saying to trespass. Don't trespass, but find a location that doesn't cost you anything and that is really cool. There's a lot of really nice locations out there that don't cost anything. And the upside of using lights like the Godox lights, a lot of them are small and portable, so you can actually take them with you, and they're battery powered. So you just need one or two lights. You can go out to any location, and you have yourself a full blown setup, just with a few Godox lights. And so I definitely like that. Kind of situation. I've always done that. So I've been doing that for years, just on carry a couple lights in the backpack, go out, shoot what you can. And it's all about that location, because that location is a character itself. And so what I have here on the screen, I just wanted to show you guys kind of whenever I'm like pitching a project to a potential client, I like to kind of lay everything out and kind of explain to them what the process is of everything. And so this was actually some behind the scenes of a shoot that I did last year, and we got to do water, we got to do fire, we got to do all kinds of crazy stuff. But this set is important just because I wanted to kind of show you basically how to create this environment. I'm creating an office setup, but I wanted to show you the use of using practical sources and also having a window in your scene. And one thing to always consider whenever you are trying to find your location is to establish where your motivated light is coming from. So if there's one big window in the room, maybe there's multiple big windows. Just remember, the more windows that there are, the harder it gets to kind of light some stuff, just because you have to control as much as you can. Just, really depends on your setup, but that's one thing to always consider, is where the motivated light is coming from. But for this particular set, we actually were able to build it and we constructed it. And so I was able to place the window to the side. And so I had motivated light coming from that window. And so we are able to shine couple VL300s through the window just as our sun source. And what we could do is put a gel on that light to make it look like it was magic hour, or middle of the day, whatever it is we needed. We're able to easily modify our Godox lights outside that window to make it look believable and realistic. And also, this set was actually in a big warehouse. So another thing to consider is it's not about your location like as a whole, it's about what is actually seen on camera. And so it's important to understand that all of the world that matters is what that camera is capturing, and what it's small parameter that you're actually seeing. And so it's very controllable. That's what's awesome about Godox, is they have so many different lights and products that you can easily achieve whatever look you're going for. And so one other thing I want to actually talk about real quick is I have been working with Godox on a film lighting 101 series, and it's an educational series where we try to I'll take you on a shoot with me, and I'll basically explain from the whole beginning what the whole process is of what we're shooting that day. So we do things like your basic lighting setups to more advanced setups like low key lighting. We'll do action scenes. We'll do lighting a car. We'll do all kinds of stuff. But check out the Godox Global YouTube for the Film Lighting 101 series. And that's kind of what I'm doing, is I'm kind of just piggybacking on that to try to bring it to you in real time here in a live stream. And so I'm going to basically walk you through a lot of those setups we did on the series, but also some other setups you haven't seen. So let's just keep it going here. Another thing to consider as far as whenever you're trying to create cinema is always, always, always consider backlighting. So backlighting is the cinematographer's hammer, is what we call it. It is such an essential tool, and it works so well. And once again, that's your motivated light. It's the source of what everything is coming from. And what this helps me do as a filmmaker is achieve more of a silhouette or a dramatic mood. I like things to be a very edgy and very dramatic as a whole. And so by backlighting your subject, it really creates that illusion, and it really just brings a whole different level to your particular set. So composition and framing, for this particular one, it really depends on what you're actually shooting. But for this one, I have everything right down the center, which I normally don't do. I usually do like a left justified setup. But for this one, we did a lot of slow dollies into where our subject here was, and it just achieved a really nice effect, especially with all the backlighting that was going on. So one other thing to consider for making your shot even more cinematic is just giving yourself a little bit of movement. Don't put everything on the tripod. You can, but I usually don't. I don't ever really bring a tripod with me unless that I'm doing like a interview or like a talking head type thing. I'm usually always using either a gimbal or like some sort of like dolly system. And there's a lot of cost-effective solutions out there to do it, but just give your shot a little bit of movement, just a little bit, and it goes a long ways with really making everything seem a lot bigger than it actually is. So let's just keep going here. And so now let's just talk a little bit about kind of my essential tools, like what's in my kit whenever I go to a big commercial shoot or I shoot any project really. There's a handful of Godox lights that are in there, more than a handful, but they have so much good stuff. And I just want to talk about the lights that really have changed my game and help push the limits every time I go out and shoot anything. So One of my absolute personal favorites is the Godox TL60 tube light, and it's a tube light. It's about 3 feet long, and it comes in a pack of two, I believe, or a pack of four, and it comes in a really nice carrying case. And you can basically mount these lights anywhere, and you can hold them. They don't get hot. They have an internal battery, so you can take them on remote locations. Like I said, when early in my career, whenever I go to like an abandoned building or something like that, it would be absolutely perfect to have one of these guys in the bag just for that. And what I have here, I have a couple examples of how you can actually use the lights in your shot. So that's what's really cool about these tube lights, is that they kind of look like practical lights. So they look like they actually belong in your scene. So that's basically what a practical light is. It's a light that is actually there already and that the camera is seeing. So it's part of your world. And I'll kind of go more further into using practical lights within your scene, but I definitely think that it's very, very important to base things off practical lights. And so um, uh, back to these TL60 tube lights, these are amazing because they have all kinds of effects you can use, and they are full RGB. So you have basically like possibility of hundreds of thousands of millions of colors, all kinds of combinations. And I'll just kind of go through a couple of these images I have on here. What you have here with let me see if I can use my mouse here. So in this image, what I have here is I have two TL60s right here on the ground. And what they're doing is they're illuminating this brick wall, all this texture behind the subject here. And that just helps kind of give our image a lot more depth, and it just helps add texture to the overall scene. And I like the warm tone just because it complemented, in this particular spot right here, this frame, it really just complemented everything else that was going on. This was a film lighting 101 lighting a face tutorial is what that image is from. And so if you want to check out that video, a lot of these are from the film lighting 101 series on YouTube. So check that out. And anyway, I think it's important to, whatever color combos you're using in your scene, they definitely need to reflect what is going on within your environment. So if it's a period piece you're trying to create, we were trying to create like a, World War II type era bunker or something. And so that's why we wanted to keep the colors a little more realistic and more of like a tungsten yellow, just to make everything kind of complement that period a lot more. And we'll go ahead and go down here a little bit. And what I'm doing here is I'm literally able just to turn the light on, and I place it I can hide it here. So I'm just hiding it in these little booths right here. And for this particular frame is a horror film, how to light a scene for a horror film. And so there's a lot more going on. I'll explain the lighting on her face here, but I just wanted to show basically the power of what these lights can do. And they can give you an accent of your background and create even more depth. And I thought that it was cool. We went with the red just to make it look more like a boiler room or something a little more supernatural, just to kind of fit the theme of what we were going for. So that's just another way you can use these tube lights. You can place them anywhere. They're so portable and they are awesome to use. And they're actually really lightweight, another good thing. So, and then this one is a different film lighting 101 series, but this one we just went to a basic car wash and found a way to make a car wash look cinematic. And so that's what we were doing. I know that maybe hopefully a lot of you have a car wash maybe around you. It's just a normal location that I think you can find in pretty much any town. I'm from Texas, and so when you're driving through any town all around Texas, there's always a small car wash. And I've always just been amazed by them because I thought they were just so cool for some weird reason. So they're so nostalgic, and they kind of take me back to like the 1970s or 80s, when it was very special to like wash your car, I guess. But anyway, I just like how they look. And so what we did for this episode is we took a bunch of Godox lights, and in particular, we took some of these TL60s and we were able to place them up high. So if you look behind the subject here, he's got a TL60 basically backlighting him here. And once again, it just looks like maybe it could be a practical light that was actually at the location itself. And so once again, that's really why I like those TL60s. This one we had, we just made it daylight balanced. It's at a 5600K, which is awesome. So you can either pick, whatever color you possibly want, you can imagine, or you can just use your typical CCT with your warm tones or your daylight balance. So, and then for this one, we just went with a daylight balanced white. LED, and I thought it just complemented everything nicely. So um, anyway, so hi guys, hi everybody for tuning in. Sorry, I get going on a rant and I just keep talking and talking and talking. So thanks for bearing with me, and I appreciate you guys tuning in, and hopefully I can help with yeah, any of your lighting. If you have any questions about lighting or anything, I'm happy to help answer them. So ask away, and I'll be here for the next hour or so. So I'm just going to go through a bunch of these projects and kind of just explain. We'll go a little bit more into detail on a lot of this stuff. I have some diagrams coming up and some other stuff just to kind of help you understand where I put the lights and how I really use them. But I'm just kind of doing a general overview right now about some of my favorite Godox products for any type of filmmaking. So um, these shots right here, down here, are from an Amazon commercial I actually just shot. And we showed up at this location, and I wish I had just a picture to show you what it looked like before we shot there, because there was nothing there. It was literally just like a dark garage. It was a garage with a boxing rink in it, and all the walls were wooden panel, and it was the middle of the day, and we were like, oh man, I don't know how we're going to do this at all. And we turned on a couple of their practical lights. They had like these little yellow like construction lights or something, so we actually used some of those. And what we did is we actually placed a bunch of these TL60s throughout the environment. I believe we used 4 of them. So if you have a pack of 4, they have that 4 kit on that you can get. Godox puts it out. It comes in a really nice case. So if you have 4 of those TL60s, what we did is we just put them in here, and we kind of aligned them across the wall here and put them all over the place. And we matched that same practical light coming from that construction light, and it actually worked out really well. So all we're using for our overall light is just one key light. It's a VL1. I'm sorry, a UL 150 with a softbox, and that's basically our key light. It's out of frame. But as far as these lights that you're seeing in the scene, these are all these TL60 lights, and so they're really cool. They're big enough for an Amazon commercial. So I would use them on anything, and that's a national spot. So I highly recommend using these TL60s if you can ever get your hands on them. They are definitely an essential tool to creating anything. So I think another thing, and this is more of kind of a modernized take on basically how cinema is working nowadays. So kind of the new edgy look is, there's a lot of color, and for a lot of different color palettes and a lot of different shows and commercials that you're seeing. And what's nice is that Godox puts out all these, LED fixtures that have so many different color combination possibilities. And so here's just a few ways of using color contrast. And so to kind of sum up color contrast, it's like any color that complements the other color happening in the environment. So you have your turquoise and orange. You could even use like a blue and a yellow. You could use we have a pink purple. We have a yellow and a purple. I mean, you name it, you can probably make it work. But red and green is another one. And that's what's really nice about using color contrast. It really just adds that much like layers to your scene. So like you're able to shape so much more and get so much more out of just a really boring scene. So I'll come back to this in just a minute, but I wanted to show you what the difference is before color contrast is added and after it's added. So here, so if you look at these stills right here, so there's no lights. These are just how the locations were. They were just, it's really plain, really dry, not a lot going on. And that's just the normal lights that were happening at those particular locations. And so, depending on how many lighting tools that you have to work with, it can get a little tricky to really make color contrast come to life. But if you have just a couple of these TL60s in your kit, you can literally do anything with them, and you can light up rooms, you can light up all kinds of stuff. So that's basically what we're doing in each of these locations. So here we have a couple practical sources that we turned on. These are just some LED Christmas lights and then a little office lamp. But other than that, these are all Godox lights happening. So there's a purple, there's a blue, there's some TL60s back here, there's another TL60 back here, and then we have some backlighting happening on our subjects here. So once again, backlighting is definitely essential to making your images look even like crisper. It pulls your subject from the background. It really makes them stand out. And so, yeah, TL30 is also, let's see, so let's see if I can put this on here. So the TL30, thank you for your question about TL30. Basically, it's the same thing almost as the TL60. It's just a smaller form factor. And so what's cool about the TL30 is that they're magnetic, so you can actually put them on anything that's metal. So like you can just pop it on there and it stays on there. So same thing with color contrast. You can use TL30s for anything. You can actually hide them in a lot more locations than you can the TL60s. So if you're able to have a TL30 and a TL60, then you're basically good to go. So Godox does have kits of both of those. So let's see here. So there's the 4-light kit that I was talking about there that if you wanted to check those out, they have them in the TL30s and the TL60s, I believe. So I just wanted to, wow, cool. From South Africa. Nice. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. I'm over here in North America right now, so really appreciate Africa tuning in. Okay, so back to some of these images. So once again, let's just talk about this one right here. And so this is just the house lights on, and that's what it looks like without any house lights whatsoever. But I will say what's important is that what I generally do is I use practicals that are in scene. So practicals are like this lamp, and this little neon right here. So by using these as our like basically foundation of lights, we use the other colors to complement everything else that's happening within the environment. So since that's like a yellow warm tone, that's a yellow warm tone. This was a pink. We use the pink of this the little love sign right here, and we're really able to add some depth all throughout. So think of lighting as lighting in layers, and so that's what's really great about using lights like LEDs is that you can use all the different colors, and you can just keep going and going and going all throughout your environment all the way back. And so that's basically what we did here. Is we just wanted something to make that pink come to life, but also have it complement everything else within the scene. And so we're actually hiding, you can't see it right here, but speaking of a TL30, I'm hiding a TL30 right back here. So just wanted to, hey, thanks for tuning in. Macedonia, awesome. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I would definitely say, yeah, add as many of these lights as you can to your Christmas wish list because it's coming up, and so it's not like what better time to get a hold of some new lighting than during Christmas. So hey, I appreciate it. Enjoy your work, Jameson. What would be your ideal Godox lighting package for travel? So um, definitely, I'll talk more about more lights, but definitely this 4-pack of TL60s for sure. They're small. The kit doesn't, it's not that big at all. TL30s are great too. And I generally use a light called the ML60 for any kind of travel. So if I have to have a carry-on and I'm on a plane and I just want a light just for whatever it is I'm shooting, just as a backup or something, I'll have an ML60, which is a handheld. You can actually hold it with your hand, and it's battery powered and it's super bright. So that, and then I have a Godox UL150. I'm going to keep going. I'll talk more about all the lights that I have in my kit, but I'm just trying to think of something for like a run and gun shoot. If you're one man banding it, or you're shooting it like a run and gun situation, these tube lights are awesome for run and gun just because you can do so much with them. I mean, they can be your key light, they can be a fill light, they can be a backlight, they can be an accent light. I mean, you can put them anywhere within your environment, and they are amazing. So hopefully that kind of helps answer that question. And so I'll go ahead and talk about this one right here, this frame. So it's just a girl in a kitchen eating a bowl of cereal. So it's not very exciting, but maybe maybe it's dramatic. Maybe she's like deep in thought, and she is going through something, and you wanted to make it a lot more dramatic. So just by adding 3 TL60s to our scene. So I have a TL60 I placed in this fridge, and this is a warmer tone, like a tungsten tone I put on here inside. I just literally set the light inside the fridge and open the door, and it was that easy. And then this one, this is a TL60 that's under here. And what this is doing, I went with that tone because that blue is complementing that yellow right there. So it's just kind of a good combo, and I just kind of liked the way it was looking. And actually was able, the light is so lightweight, I actually taped it underneath the cabinet there. And so that's what's great about these lights too, is you can tape them if you need to. So you can get really creative on how you want to approach your, depending on your setup and your location, how you want to approach like putting these lights within your scene. And so I wanted the camera to be able to see the blue, the actual tube from that light. And so that's what I went with there. And once again, there's a window right here, and there's some blinds here, and I just placed another TL60 on the other side of the blinds right there, and that's just kind of illuminating this window, just to kind of make it pop and kind of, like I said, lighting. Think of it as lighting and shape. So like you're trying to shape as many different things as you can to complement the overall image. And so by her being right here in the middle, I just feel like there's a lot happening around her, and she still kind of kept dark and moody. And so I just liked how it looked, and it just made the scene feel a lot more dramatic by adding a little bit of color contrast. So let's go ahead and keep moving on here. And if you guys have any questions whatsoever, ask away and I will do my best to answer them, okay? Let's see here if I can. Okay, so another thing that I am a huge fan of with using any Godox LEDs on set is the Godox Light App. And so they actually have these RGB panel lights, the LD150R, LD150RS. I have those in my kits, and they are incredibly bright, and you can set them up. What I do a lot of times is I set them like way far away, and as I'm behind the camera, I'm able to use the wireless app from my phone, just the Godox app, and I can literally take it and I can dial in everything from like the colors to the effects to like whatever. It's amazing, and it's a really cool tool to have, and especially to be like watching your shot in real time, as opposed to having to like run over, 50 feet away, adjust the light, run back to your camera, run back over, mess with it again. You don't have to do that anymore. You can turn it on, you can turn it off, you can adjust the settings, you can adjust the special effects, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. So, and these are just a couple examples of, lighting from a distance. And sometimes maybe you put the light in a hard to reach place. Like this is like 8 feet up in, like, I think this wall was 8 feet right here where these lights are. These are TL60s placed up here. And so, if I wanted to change the colors or I wanted to turn them off for whatever reason, I could just take my phone out and hit it, and I can adjust right there on the fly. And so it just saves you a lot of time. And it's also very impressive. So if you ever have like, a client looking over your shoulder, or, even if you're one man banding it and you need, help and you don't have a crew with you, well, you can, once you set everything up in advance, you can step behind the camera and literally make the adjustments and get your shot and move on to the next shot. And so that is, as filmmakers, we're always kind of racing against the clock. I know that time is basically the biggest enemy on set. And so the more time you can save to, hone your craft and like get everything that you can for your cinematography, the better the overall result is going to be, and the better that your video that you're filming is going to be. So yeah, I just it's crazy. I'm just super impressed with the Godox Light app and like the functionality, and it's super easy to use, and I cannot say enough good things about it. Just going to go ahead and thanks, Sarvesh. Using Godox products for a number of shoots, especially SL60W, awesome light, and TL series, also awesome lights. It's super cool. Love from India. Thank you so much for tuning in, Sarvesh. Appreciate that. Yeah, and so that's basically, I just wanted to show a couple different ways in which I'm adjusting, the lights just using the app. And so that app is it's super dialed in, it's super easy to use, and it makes a whole lot of sense to help your shoots. So let's see what else we got here. Okay, so this is speaking of the essential tools that are always in my bag. I always have a Godox S60 focusing light in my kit. This light is a game changer. So, and I say that because of what I have here is, or what I wanted to highlight was this projection. It's an 85mm projection attachment. And what you do is you can actually insert a gobo of a window or some other source. I know they make them of like fire, of stars, of all kinds of crazy stuff. Just go look up Godox gobos and all kinds of cool stuff comes out. But these are essential lights because they have a narrow beam. And when I'm talking about crafting and shaping an image, that's actually how you shape light. And so these spotlights really are able to, what I use them primarily for is for background. And what I like to do is I basically take a boring location. Let's say you're off filming an interview in a conference room somewhere, and it's boring. You know, the walls are just boring. There's nothing happening in the room. Well, if you turn off all the lights to the room and use a Godox S60 with a gobo of a window or something and shine it onto the back wall, kind of similar to what's happening right here behind me, is you get that window effect. And so that can turn a boring background into something that's a lot more pleasing on the eye. And so this S60, I mean, you can use them so many different ways, and they're little, they're battery powered, and they're super powerful. I use a couple of them every chance that I get, but a couple of these frames, like here, I'm showcasing product, and I'm shining a Godox S60 across here, and I got a warm gel on the front of it, and that's just making it look like maybe it's early morning light that's like hitting through the product, but I'm backlighting it with a window gobo, and it just makes it look like there's a window source right over on this side of the frame. And so I just thought it helped, everything kind of pop and come to life. And once again, this location right here, this is an interview setup, and very boring location if you don't have any lights that are on. And there's an S60 back here with a gobo, and it's making this cool pattern all along here. And notice how I didn't use the full frame to light. I didn't just like, bam, hit all of this right here. I left it dark in certain areas. That's what's great about this, and that's where that spotlight comes into handy, is that you can shape the light to only accent certain areas of your environment. And so that is why the S60 for a cinematographer is definitely an essential tool for any shoot. So up here, this is basically what you can do is once you have the lens projection attachment, let's see here. Yeah, so you can basically focus in on the lighting on it. So you can make it soft, you can make it hard, you can like make it completely in focus. Maybe you want your window to be super sharp. Well, you can easily do that. Maybe you want it to just look like it belongs in the environment. I typically like to blur it to where you get just an idea of a window being there, but not anything, over the top and, that's crazy, like that stands out that much. So I use it here. I'm using it with a blue gel just to make it look like maybe moonlight is coming through, and you can shine the beam all throughout your environment. Here I'm placing a gobo inside the lens projection attachment, and those gobos are just little metal, little things. I mean, they're like this big. They're really, really small, and you just pop them in there. They have gobo holders too, but I always do it wrong. I'm always kind of in a hurry, so I always just pop them in there and make it work. So whatever happens and whatever it looks like on your background, that's really all that matters. But I want to talk about this particular shot right here. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more, but I used a gobo here. So this is a lens or an S60 hitting the subject's face with a gobo, and it's looking like she's looking through window blinds. And so that was the idea here. That's another really cool way you can use a gobo and an S60 with a projection attachment in your scene. And once again, okay, so this image right here is basically letting you see what this light's doing and what it's doing on this wall. And that's the same as this wall right here in this image. So I should have put this over here, but you can kind of see what's happening here. And so that just helps it create, there's no window here. So that's just kind of helping it create the illusion of natural light spilling into the environment. And it just adds a little bit extra, these lines help add some extra shape and detail. And so it's pretty cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and, hey Lamont, been rocking with the SL150R and the I200 on a docu-series I'm shooting. Awesome, awesome, awesome lights. Yeah, I cannot say enough good things. I hope you're enjoying it, and I hope that they're working out okay. Yeah, definitely love those lights. Let's see here. And then here's another environment in which I'm using actually two of these S60s with a projection attachment. I'm hitting them off a mirror, and the mirror is reflecting all across the environment in the background there. And so you can get creative with these things. And that's what I like about so many of the Godox lights, is that they're so small, and they're battery powered. They're very remote, that you can place them anywhere, and you can get crazy with them. And so that's what's nice. They're not super heavy. You're not going to burn your hand touching them. They're reliable, and they're simple to use, and they're super effective. And yeah, once again, here's another idea or another way of seeing the S60 in action. This is a gobo that's hitting this floor and also hitting this doorway here. And you can kind of see what is happening on this doorway. It has this really cool effect all throughout here. And then once again on this one, it's giving, so I lit this side of his face right here, but it's also this gobo is hitting on this back wall that's way far back. I think that wall was like 40 feet behind him, and it just kind of gives it the illusion of something happening back there. We don't really know what it is, but it's interesting. And so that's what's cool about this light, is it definitely creates a lot of interest within your scene. Sorry, can you guys see my mouse at all? I'm not sure if you can see my mouse or anything, so I don't think you can. Um, so I will. Okay, sorry. I'm talking about the image in the bottom right corner. So sorry, I'll describe. I've been using my mouse the whole time, so I will describe much easier on which image to look at. So the very bottom right side of your screen. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Daniela. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next one, and then I'll take your note on the mouse. I'll be able to kind of point this out a little bit easier next time. Okay, so my apologies. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about just a really nice tool to use for the majority of your shoots. So if you're looking for high key lighting or something where you need a lot of light on your subject and you want it to be like more of a beauty light, that's basically what these two tools will do. So the UL 150 silent light is perfect for any sort of interview setup, or even any sort of high key lighting scene in general. I like it because it's quiet, which all the Godox lights are really quiet, but this one in particular has no fan and it's super bright. And so to complement that light, what I like to do is use a QRP 120 softbox, and they make them in all different kinds of sizes. So are you able to see the screen that I'm talking about with the presentation at all by chance? Can you guys answer me that? Are you seeing the keynote with do you see a softbox and a light on there? Okay. Real quick, can anyone answer that for me, just so I know that you can see the screen that's happening? Okay, awesome. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Okay, just making sure you guys can follow along as I go. Like I said, I'm not a live broadcast expert. I'm normally in the field filming stuff, so this is new for me. So thank you for bearing with me. Okay, so back to the QRP 120 softbox. So this softbox is great because it's quick release, so you can easily pop open the tabs of it and it sets up in no time. I think I could set it up in like 30 seconds. You put it on your light, and now you have this huge soft source of light, and it's a really good beauty light. So what I typically do is I don't set the light, if I have a key light for my, like say I'm doing an interview or something, I don't set it directly in front of my subject. I'll set it to the side. Let's see, the side over here, and a little bit further back. And then this softbox is able to spill all around your subject. It just creates some nice soft lighting, and you get that really cool beauty eye light. And that's what I like about the big softbox. So like the bigger the source, the more of a beauty eye light you get. And so it just diffuses things nicely and really helps with skin tones of your subject. And so I'm using it pretty much every shoot that I do, any kind of interview or talking head type work, or if I need just a big fill light for like an overall scene, I'll also use it for that. And also you can use it for an overhead light. So if you want it to come down over the top of your subject, which is also another popular way of using it, you can do that too. You just need a C-stand, which Godox has. Those typically work out really well. But if you can kind of see those images that are below the softbox and that light up there, it kind of shows you different ways in which I set up the light. Like I said, I never place it directly in front of my subject. I always put it off a little bit to the side, and I raise it up a little bit higher, so that way it's casting down. And that just helps create just like a nicer beauty light on your subject. So that's a little bit about the QRP 120, P70, P90. I use the P120 just because it's the biggest size, and I feel like I get the most out of it. But I could use a P70 or P90. All of them work, and they're all awesome. Let me just talk about the use of the silk fabric. Softens the light. It's a diffusion fabric. That's the part that goes in front of the softbox just to create that nice soft glow. And that grid, the fabric grid, is actually really nice to use. I'm always using it just because it contains that light in a very narrow source, so it's not spilling everywhere. So if you want the light to only be on your subject, that's a great thing to use. So think about using that grid the next time you use the softbox, just because it's going to contain that light in a lot easier way. Okay. So now we're going to kind of go more into specifics. This might be easier to follow now because there's not near as much going on. So what you can see here is this is from a Godox Film Lighting 101 episode on YouTube. So once again, it's on the Godox Global YouTube. You can check out. There's all kinds of different tutorials. We talk all about all of this stuff in depth. So hopefully after this broadcast, you can go check it out, see what tools I'm using, and go get some of those lights for yourself and use them for your shoots. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit more about them in detail here. I just wanted to show you, so the image that says house lights only equals flat light. So that lighting is not very cinematic, and that is what we want to avoid. And so remember to always try to look at it as lighting in layers, and layers give you shape and definition, and it really helps tell the story. So lighting in this particular scene is really telling a story, and that story is a very sad, moody, dramatic scene. And so this was a like 1920s like war bunker. So like think about World War II is happening, you know, up above or something, and it's very dramatic. And this guy is down, you know, low in a bunker in a basement somewhere, and you know he's deep in thought. And so the idea here is to keep everything very moody without it giving away too much. We don't want to show all of the environment because then it just, you know, he looks like he's, if you look at that flat light, he's just part of the environment and it's all one color, and it's not, it just doesn't look very good. So what we want to do is use lights very strategically to, you know, add as much texture and shape as we can. And so that's what we're doing here. And so if you look at the underneath the house lights only, if you look at most of those images there, it kind of shows you some of the what I'm doing to set up the light and trying to control it in a different kind of way. The diagram kind of helps explain most of this. So also, if you look at that diagram where you see the guy standing there, you see that I'm using a Godox 5-in-1 reflector. And that helps block out a lot of the light from hitting his face like super harsh. That's why there's just a little bit of light on that side of his face. And so, okay, looking at that diagram, what I'm using here is a Godox SZ150R. And this light's cool because it's also RGB, it's super bright, and I have that bouncing off of the wall, and just that little bit of bounce is casting light across that brick texture, and it is falling under our subject, and not super harsh or anything, but just enough to kind of give us a hint that there's something happening, and that, you know, it's very dark and very moody. And that Godox 5-in-1 reflector is helping keep that light. It's helping from the light hitting the front side of his face, so it's only hitting basically the side that we want it to hit and nothing else. And so that's what that 5-in-1 reflector is doing. And that's also cool about the 5-in-1 reflector is that it's portable. You can fold it up, and you can use it as a diffusion. It's in white. It's in. I'm using it here. I'm just using the black side with the cover on there, just because it's helping me as a, you know, a flag, so to speak. So that's what I'm using it there. Behind the subject, down on the ground, I was using the Godox Light App, and I have two TL60s that are down low. And what those are doing is helping highlight that middle ground that's behind the subject. And it's illuminating that brick texture that's all behind there. And where I set them underneath like a little bench type thing. And that bench is actually cutting the light on the right side of the subject. And so that's why you're getting a little bit of that cut, like that straight line through there. And in the very far background, I am using a Godox S60, which I talked about just a minute ago, which is, I use it on pretty much every shoot, and that's the with the projection attachment and a gobo, and I have a window gobo, and that's just helping give some interest to that very back corner. And so normally, as far as composition goes, whenever I'm trying to shoot a subject, I am trying to shoot into a corner, trying to maximize as much depth as possible. So like, I don't want to just put my subject like right onto a wall, or, you know, I want to be able to add as much between the subject and the wall in the background as I can, just so that we focus more on what's happening with the subject. I just feel like it makes for a lot more creative image, and it helps you play with lighting a lot more as you build your scene out. And so that's pretty much that setup there. Let's see here. Okay, let me move on to another setup here. Bear with me real quick. If it wants to work, nope. Okay. Hold on, sorry, bear with me here. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. Hopefully you guys can see that okay. All right, so we have the, in this particular scene, this is another Godox Film Lighting 101 tutorial that we did. And I just wanted to talk about what we're trying to do is we're creating more of a moody horror type vibe here. So it's like a very dark, edgy, scary scene is what we're trying to do. And so I kind of wanted it to look like this girl was maybe like trapped in a boiler room and she's like looking out the window to see like what's going on out there, or maybe she's planning on escaping somehow. It's a really bad scenario to be in, and so by lighting it a certain way, we can actually make it seem a lot scarier. And so that's basically what we're doing here. So um, if you look at the house lights only, there weren't any house lights. There's really those two practical bulbs that are up there above, um, where she's at. And so the house lights, there wasn't a lot going on. So we really needed to add a lot more just to make something kind of happen here. So what I did from there is I added those TL60 tube lights to the background, and I changed all of them. I think I used like 3 or 4 of them, and I just kind of hid them. There's like a little booth area back there, and I kind of just hid them, made them red, and they're battery powered. So I just turned them on and placed them back there, set them up in literally seconds, and they were good to go. And then I was able to come back behind the camera and adjust with the Godox Light app and dial in exactly the color that I wanted with all of those lights. And so now moving to what's happening in the front side. So that light that is casting across that subject's face. So like you're seeing those beams, or like the little lines that are going all across her. What's creating that is an Godox S60 with a projection attachment and a gobo of window blinds. And so that gobo is helping achieve that illusion of the window that really isn't there. But as a viewer, we think that it's there and she's looking out something. And so it was just a cool creative way to make it, add a little bit more to the scene. I just, liked liked the way it looked. And so we just went with it. And I thought it looked really scary. Okay. How did you draw the schematic diagram of lights with Godox Notions? Let's see here. Like the diagram part, I use After Effects. So I use After Effects, and I do a lot of design work. And so it's the easiest simplified way I can kind of show you guys how I sometimes lay things out, because I know these setups get kind of complicated and it's kind of hard to follow. So if anything, just look at that diagram and see what I'm using and how I'm using it. And I forgot to say, the last light that I'm actually using is a Godox TL30, and that light is actually, if you look at the diagram in the right corner, and that Godox TL30 is just helping her give a little bit of moonlight. It's just I had it on like a bluish purple light, and so it's just kind of give it moonlight just to kind of cool off the environment, because she's in this hot boiler room, so to speak, with the red lighting and the yellow lighting. And I just wanted to cool things off as if like that light was coming through the window, as if she's looking outside. And so that's what that TL30 is doing there. And one other thing I want to talk about to really create a cinematic environment all around is to use a hazer. So haze in your environment is like what you see in all the Hollywood movies. So Spielberg uses it a lot. A lot of big time productions use it. You can get a hazer for pretty cheap. You can even have that little aerosol spray, and you can use that. But that helps give atmosphere to your scene, and it really helps these lights like kind of have just that much more cinematic essence to them. And so definitely highly recommend using a hazer in your productions whenever you can. It's really hard to use them for like interviews. I wouldn't really use it for that, just because continuity, you want it to be consistent. But if you're creating a scene and maybe it's just a couple of shots, definitely a hazer is the way that you can do it. So okay, let's see here. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this is more of your interview type setup. So I just wanted to talk about what exactly I am doing here. So if you follow that diagram right there, it should be able to make a lot more sense. And so here I'm using the QRP120 softbox, and that's the big softbox I talked about earlier. And that's that beauty light that's happening across her face and her eyes. If you look at the house lights only shot up in the top corner, there's not, once again, not a lot going on. Very dark and not very beautiful. And so what we wanted to do was give it some life. And so by adding a couple of different of these lights, we can really make everything pop. And so that front key light I'm using is a QRP 120 softbox, and that's nice big soft lighting. It diffuses all across her face and her front side. I kept the side away from camera. I'm sorry, closer to camera in a way. The way she's turned is weird, but I keep that a little more shadowy just to give it more definition to the overall face. You don't want to just light the entire face altogether, because then you're not getting any definition and your shot looks a little more, it just looks really flat if you do that. But you want to give your subject as much shape as possible. And so that's why I kind of keep one side dark usually if I do a fill light, or I use a key light, but usually it's definitely not near as bright as my key light. The other thing that I'm using here is a backlight. So I'm using a backlight, and that is highlighting the back of the couch and her hairline all around there. And I'm using a LD150R with a softbox in a grid, and that is just nice soft lighting that is complementing that backside. It's also helping light up the background behind her. So it's kind of doing a lot of things, but that backlight is just very important in pulling your subject from the background, and that helps create even more depth. And the final thing that I'm using here is, once again, the Godox S60 with the gobo, and I'm hitting the back window pattern on that back wall. If you look at that image there, and that is just kind of creating more shape back there, and just giving that stairwell a little bit more detail, and just making the scene come to life a lot more. So let's see here. Well, hello from from North America. We appreciate South Africa tuning in. Thank you so much. Glad you're here. Let's see here. When do you tend to choose the Godox lantern over the softbox? Okay, well, typically the lantern is nice because you want to light up your entire environment. So say everything is just pitch black in there, and you need like an overall, just a boost in exposure for everything. That's when the lantern really comes up. I don't really use the lantern for like my key light, so to speak, on the subject, just because I can't control it as well. I'll use it for, like I said, to light the entire environment. So it's something that I might, stick back in a corner somewhere, but then crank it up. So then that way, at least everything is a little bit more illuminated. And then the softbox is nice just because you can bring it in and you can put a grid on it, and it keeps a narrow, basically, area that's actually lit by that source of light, if that helps make sense. So both accessories or modifiers are awesome. I use them both all the time. But normally for this type of thing, I kind of lately I've been going more towards the softbox. So I hope that makes sense. So as a cinematographer, what is my preference? I use them both. I mean, it really just depends on your location. They're both awesome modifiers, like I said. So either way, you're fine. Just with that lantern, you just have to be wary on don't place it directly in front of your subject. Just find a way that you can still cast, you can still shape light across your subject's face is the main thing. But that lantern is great by boosting the whole environment. If you're doing a high key lighting setup, it's perfect. Like I would go with the lantern. But if you're lighting for a beauty light and you still want it to be very controlled, then go with the softbox. So hopefully that helps answer that question. Let's see here. What lights would you use for a corporate interview where it doesn't need to be dramatic? I only know dramatic. I'm just kidding. I prefer dramatic, and sometimes I get a little too dramatic, and so I have to dial it back for corporate. So a lantern would be what we were just talking about would be great for a corporate interview, as well as the softbox. What you could do is you could use a lantern on one side as your overall fill light, and I would just put it at like 1 or 2% of whatever light that is. And then on your key light, I would still use like a softbox or something, and that would be a little bit brighter, and a backlight. So really, you're using a 3-point lighting setup. So you have your backlight, and that light is helping pull your subject from the background. You've got your key light, which is your main light on your subject's face. Like I put it over. Sorry, you can't really see my hand right here. I put it over in this area, kind of at an angle. And then the fill light I would put on the opposite side, but not near as bright. So at least you still get a little definition on the face. But I just wouldn't light everything as bright and as hot as possible. I would still try to make it like, you still try to pull some definition out of it, but definitely, use that 3-point lighting setup if you're able to. If that helps answer your question, Daniela. So, but I mean, even on corporate interviews, I still like to use the gobo or the window effect just because on that background, just because it really does help make the overall thing come to life, and it can make any boring location look more pleasing on the eye, and that's just why I like using that gobo a lot. Okay, let's see here. All right. Thank you, Anthony, for tuning in. Appreciate you being here, man. Okay, so we've got the let's see here. Okay, so here is a low key lighting setup. So this is a very dramatic, moody scene. If you look at it before the house, or the house lights were only on, everything is very yellow. It looks very normal. Just looks like a typical room that you'd normally see. But what we wanted to do was transform it to become something a little more like edgy sci-fi thriller. I don't know, like Blade Runner or something. So that's what's cool about Godox lights. There's so many different colors you can use and so many different little modifiers that you can create sci-fi out of an apartment, and that's kind of what we did here. And so if you just look at that diagram, I'll start from the very top of the diagram. I've got a Godox LD150R. It's shining through a 5-in-1 reflector, which is just softening that light, and that's shining in through a window. It's not even in the shot. It's way back out of the shot, but it's just giving a little bit of orange, like if there's artificial light or like an evening glow or something coming in from the very, very far background. And once again, I'm following the diagram right here. I have a Godox S60, and that has a projection attachment of a window, and that window is actually hitting the door and the ground behind the subject. It's also actually kind of helping become her backlight, which is giving her a silhouette. So that's basically what that's doing. And I put a blue gel on there just to kind of make it look a little more like it's moonlight, or maybe it's coming from some sort of technology. Use your imagination. That's what's great about using different colors for your lights. And then really the only other noticeable, well, I guess you have the LD150RS, which is the subject's key light. So that's what's lighting her face there on the side. And one thing to keep in mind for the most cinematic image is if you look at the final result image, the side that's closest to the camera is darker, and the side that is further away on her face, that is further away, is the one that's lit up. So by doing this, it just adds extra definition, and it's a little bit more flattering for your subject. If you don't have to go this far, this is low key lighting, but just kind of keep in mind that if your subject's kind of positioned like this, to keep that darker side pointed toward of their face, pointed toward the camera, and to highlight light the part of their face that's away from the camera. And that will just give you a lot better image, and it looks a lot more cinematic. And it's just an easy trick that you can use for any kind of composition. So I hope that makes sense. That's one thing that early on I didn't really understand, but like after doing it for so many years and seeing so many big movies and shows and everything, I just kind of learned that, and the results were just so much better. So hopefully that's a helpful tip on lighting a face and the way that you can place your subject. If you want them to turn like this, definitely light over on this side of the face, not this side of the face. Keep that dark right there, if that makes sense. So real quick, just to get okay, back to the little frame there on the bottom, the finished one. The orange, all that orange weird streaking light that's on that image is actually coming from a little nightstand that had all these little cutout patterns in it. And so that's another way that you can use a light, like the small little Godox TL30 light. It's like this big of a light. And so you can just turn it on and you can just place it underneath things or find a creative way to use it. And that's basically all I did there, was just got lucky with the location. So yeah, so there's that. Let's go ahead and just talk about one more example here. Let's see here. We have, okay, so here is an example of a car wash that we went and lit up. And car washes are something that hopefully a lot of you have in your town, or it's a very common location that doesn't really cost anything to shoot at. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about what you can actually achieve somewhere that is, I don't know, car washes are something about them is very like nostalgic to me. And I like using them. I've used them in movies and I've used them in shows and all kinds of stuff. And for some reason I keep going back. And so I just wanted to kind of explain, if you're doing a music video or you're doing something, a movie scene, and you want a dramatic location that's at nighttime, a car wash is perfect because you have a lot of different tools you can use. You can use the practical lights from a car. You can use the practical lights from the actual location itself. You can use the water, and I'll talk about that here in just a second. But let's see here. So if you look at the no lights added for this particular scene, no lights added, it's very green and just very boring and flat. And that's typically what they look like whenever you try to film them. And so what we wanted to do was bring in a couple Godox lights to really, make this come to life and shape some light in a creative way, and help complement the overall aesthetic of what we're pulling off here. So the first thing that I did was those green lights, like that green tint that's coming from the actual location itself, is the mercury vapor bulbs. They're just really old bulbs that are in a lot of lights. And so, this being on location, I didn't have control of the lighting. So I had to just use those. That tint was going to be in my shot regardless. So I had to kind of go with it and play that off. So immediately I went to, okay, I got to make some color contrast here. So what's going to complement this green? Orange. So green and orange are complementary colors. So I knew immediately, I was like, okay, I'm going to go with this orange here. And so that's basically what I did there. And so I based everything off of those practical sources that I couldn't get rid of. They're going to be in my shot regardless. So from there, I wanted to add some orange lighting. So actually, I've got another diagram I can show here, but just by looking at those images, you kind of see I played with the car tail lights, I played with some water. I placed some Godox TL60s up high, just to create like an LED effect, just to kind of modernize the car wash a little bit, to make it look a little more trendy, I guess you could say. And so I'm going to go ahead and move to part 2 of this. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about this real quick. Okay. I don't know if you can see my mouse now. Can you guys see my mouse? Now it shows up. Okay. Yeah, so one thing to really consider, that's why I like car washes, is water as a lighting tool. So like water at night, if you watch any big like HBO series or big production anywhere, you see a nighttime scene, most of the time the street is always wet down. And that is because it's reflecting light off of the ground, and it's giving that much more exposure and just like craziness to the scene. So anytime that you can use water, it really doesn't even have to be a rainy day or anything. Here I'm just using the water from the car wash. I'm soaking down the windows of the car and shining light through them. And so using water, I mean, it's just such a cool effect, and it doesn't cost you anything because you're just, at the car wash and you're just playing. So definitely anytime that you film at nighttime, consider using water, especially in a car scene, just because you're going to get all that nice, when you backlight the water, for instance, when the guy's sitting inside the car at frame number 1, you just get a really cool effect. And it also helps kind of conceal the environment of where you're at. So maybe you're filming somewhere, you don't want to show what's outside the environment, then wet down the windows and shine light through those windows. That's just a really quick trick to help make everything look even more cinematic. And real quick, for this particular shoot, to complement some of that green tone that was happening within that environment, we used a TL30, which is that little, the little tube light, and it has a waterproof bag, and we literally soaked the waterproof bag, and it was awesome. It performed flawlessly because it didn't affect the light at all. So whenever you get a Godox TL30, it comes with a waterproof bag, and it's kind of the equivalent to like a crash cam, so to speak. It's kind of like a stunt light where you just put it in the waterproof bag and it can get soaked. You can put it out in the rain. You can do whatever you want and not have to worry about damaging your lights. And so that was one really cool trick that we really liked with that particular light. And so, yeah, once again, I just wanted to, if you guys have any questions about any of this stuff, I appreciate all you guys tuning in. I'm just kind of going through everything and kind of trying to sum it up and try to give you as many tips and tricks as I can, and talk about what particular products that I'm a big fan of. I use all Godox lights for all kinds of shoots, from national commercials to movies to documentaries to whatever. Point a camera at it, I'm using Godox lights. So I do a film lighting 101 series on Godox Global's YouTube. So check that out if you want any in-depth tutorials that talk about any of these setups. We're going to be coming out with future episodes, and we'll be kicking them out and trying to help you guys out as much as possible. So if there's any ideas that you ever have, definitely tune in, leave comments to Godox, and we'll circle back and figure out a way to take your idea, and maybe I can make an episode about it. So I would love to do any of that. So however I can get you guys involved and kind of give the community something that's more helpful for you. That's why I'm here. So if we have any other questions, I think that's about all that I have right now. So just wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to the Profusion Godox Light booth, and it was awesome to talk with you. I hope I didn't talk too fast, and I hope that you're able to learn a little bit about what I use in my kit. I use a lot more than what I talked about, but once again, definitely tune in to Godox Film Lighting 101. You'll see more of me there, and leave a comment. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Okay, take it easy.